Okay, next special guest on the show now. We have Clare Seal joining me on the Danny Sun program, and on the next segment, a real life case study this week. We talk about money. It's actually Money Week today, National Week, where some of the world's biggest organisations have come together to back this initiative. So, what better way to encourage people to talk about money and its advantages and disadvantages? And I'm delighted to introduce on the show now Clare Seal, money blogger and influencer.
Hi, hello.
Welcome to the show. Can you tell my listeners where you're from and just a little bit of your background?
So I'm actually from the Midlands myself, but I live in Bath now. I moved down here for university and never left. My husband's a Geordie, so neither of us are from here. Yeah, my background with regards to money is that for a really, really long time, I was not very good at managing it, and I had a really sort of rubbish relationship with money. And it culminated in a really stressful financial situation and a lot of debt, which I then started to tackle in March of last year. And for some reason, I thought it was a great idea to sort of document that on Instagram. But what I wasn't expecting was that so many people would identify with it, and now it's a community of nearly 70,000 people. So and it's become a real like judgment-free place to talk about money.
Excellent. So it's power of the internet, the media and reaching people. It's amazing. And regarding debt, if one finds himself in that predicament, where can you go to sort advice? I obviously Citizens Advice Bureau and financial columnists in the newspapers, possibly.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there are a lot of different things that will help a lot of different people. So everyone's financial priorities are different, and everyone's financial situation's different. So if you're finding that you just don't really know where to start, then a great place to look at is actually Instagram. So a lot of people talking about money in a really accessible way. But if you're sort of looking to like, improve your credit score, or you don't really know anything about how credit scores work, then Experian's website have got loads of really great information for you. And they've actually done a study that says that over half of people have either never checked their credit score or check it less than twice a year, um, when actually it's something that's really good to check quite often. It gives you a good picture of your like financial health. So yeah, just making sure that you're clued up on all of the elements of your financial well-being is a really good way to sort of start.
Sure, so there is help there. I've just got a few stats here. 60% of people have no idea what their credit score is, and those that do, 30% don't bother to look at it.
Yeah, it's a really important part of knowing, what the lay of the land is with regard to your financial situation, especially at the moment. I think in an ideal world, no one would ever have to borrow money in the form of credit, but actually credit in itself isn't bad as long as you use it carefully. I quite often compare it to like a power tool. So you can use a drill to put up a picture frame, or you can use it to completely destroy your house. And it's a bit like that with credit. So as long as you know how to use it, you can use it really well and constructively. But if you don't know what you're doing, it can be a bit dangerous. So making sure that you're sort of clued up on how credit scores work, making sure that you're on top of yours. You can also use Experian's new service called Boost,
Right.
which enables you to use kind of other information. So subscriptions to things like Netflix, and also paying your council tax on time to improve your credit score, so that you get a better idea of what's going on there.
It's kind of budgeting, really, just kind of mapping everything out. You mentioned Netflix as well. One of the free people say entertainment style subscriptions such as Amazon Prime, Netflix, and even Disney have been pivotal to life in recent months. And are these companies one of the success stories to come out of 2020 when all you hear about is big retail chains closing down and collapsing?
I think, as in any kind of difficult situation or big change, there are always going to be winners and losers. But I think that, digital subscriptions and entertainment have done really well, because not only has it been something for people to do, but it's a way for people to relate to each other. You can feel sort of close to somebody by sort of watching the same program at the same time or talking about it. So I can see sort of why those companies would have done well. And I think the key thing is to make sure that if you're taking on new subscriptions during the pandemic because you're working from home or because you're watching more television or whatever, then it's just important to keep an eye and make sure that you're using them. And if they're not, then cancel. If you're not, then cancel them.
Yes, a good point, because sometimes you hear about these subscriptions offering like a month's trial, and then people forget about it, and then they don't know where to cancel it. So just be aware of how to cancel it when the time comes.
Precisely, yeah.
Right, and with the Yuletide season approaching, how can one budget for Christmas?
So I think that, it's never too late to budget for Christmas. I think, it's an important point to make, because I think a lot of people are thinking that by November you might as well just sort of give up on the idea of saving. But actually, there are still ways that if you can kind of cut down on things like those subscriptions that we just mentioned, then you might be able to sort of save a little bit more for Christmas. But I think there's going to be the temptation this year for people to try and overcompensate over Christmas if they're not seeing their loved ones. And I think an important thing to remember there is, don't pile yourself with extra financial stress for the whole of 2021 and beyond for the sake of, buying somebody a gift. And there are lots of ways to be generous without spending loads and loads of money.
Of course. And do you think during 2020 people have become more cautious or will be more cautious with their spending, or is it the same every year where old habits never die? People always like to push the boat out.
I think it's hard, and I think it's different for different people, to be honest. Obviously, some people will have benefited financially from the pandemic, and I think some people feel quite uncomfortable with that fact, because it's quite clear that a lot of people have struggled. But if you're still working from home and you don't have your travel costs, then you might have a little bit more cash available. But my advice even then would be, we're in such unpredictable times, that saving that might not be the worst thing. But I think, for some people, the pandemic has made them less sort of wanting to spend on material things. And for some people, the pandemic's been a real emotional spending trigger. So I think it's different for different people.
And what do we know about the whole hormone dopamine? Do you know when we buy that new pair of shoes, we get that new car, and we have a win on that scratch card? Is it that buzz which makes people feel good, when they're kind of treating themselves?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I wrote a piece recently about emotional spending and sort of, financial well-being. And actually, for a lot of people, spending becomes a bit of a coping mechanism, and so many of our other coping strategies aren't available to us at the moment, like going out to see our friends, or going to the gym or whatever. So it is, you can see why people are relying on an Amazon delivery for that kind of dopamine hit. But unfortunately, we're sort of wired to go for the initial hit rather than to think about the long-term consequences. So what we have to sort of do is try and rewire ourselves to consider how we're going to feel about this in 6 months time, 12 months time, and whether we're going to have sort of regret or remorse.
Sure.
I think it's really important.
And you mentioned you do a bit of writing. Your recent book, Real Life Money, is out now, released way back in June 2020, and you have a new one following that, Real Life Money Journal 2020, coming up around December time.
Yeah, that's right. So Real Life Money is sort of a part memoir, part practical guide. So some of it is about my story, and some of it's about how people can improve their relationship with money. And then the journal really is carrying on from that, and it's a sort of workbook that you can fill in yourself with lots of prompts and useful information, very practical, hopefully quite helpful for people.
Wonderful. And a couple more to go. Just wanted to touch on debt collectors as well. Are you happy to see the new rules coming in to tone down the threatening debt collection letters? Is that a step in the right direction?
Very much so. And I know that that's something that the Money and Mental Health Policy Institute have campaigned for a long time. I'm really pleased to see that coming in. I think it really adds that language around debt, really adds to the stigma, as to programs like, Can't Pay, We'll Take It Away. I think, we've got to end that, because more, it makes sure that more people are ashamed, which means they don't talk about it, which means they can't take the steps that they need to take to fix it. So yeah, I'm thrilled to hear about that.
Lovely. And finally, can you give me 5 things which money can't buy?
So I don't think that money can actually buy happiness, but the lack of it can make you quite unhappy. Financial stress can make you quite unhappy. You can't buy a sunny day. You can't buy a cuddle from your children. You can't buy that sort of feeling when you wake up and you feel like it's going to be a good day. And you can't buy your health. So I think they're kind of all things that we can learn to appreciate.
True. And I've got one more from mine on my list. Money can't buy you time or a smile.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, thank you very much for discussing all about finances and budgeting during this forthcoming Christmas period. Clare Seal, a money blogger and influencer on the Dennison Show. Thanks for talking with me.
Thanks so much.
Great stuff.